The word that comes to mind for the community and for the police department is brazen. That was a brazen crime committed tragically, sadly, by teenagers. And it happened back in September. 14 firearms were stolen during that burglary of the gun store. We've recovered 8, and that's good news. We've recovered 8, but there's 6 more out there. And those 6 more firearms out there in the wrong hands can do a lot of damage and a lot of harm. So you're going to hear from Major Elizabeth Melendez today about the crime spree that these young criminals went on after they burglarized that gun store and possessed those firearms. We can identify them as being part or taking part in subsequent crimes, but we suspect that there may be more, and we're working with our local law enforcement partners to identify any crimes that they committed that we do not yet know about. We can't do this work without the ATF, so the relationship with Special Agent in Charge Anthony Spotswood and his team has been very meaningful. They have relentless special agents, and we have relentless detectives and crime scene detectives in Fairfax County, and they handled this particular brazen crime with a sense of urgency that resulted in arrests and the identification of additional crimes committed. Major Melendez will go through those crimes that we're aware of, and then we'll take questions about this brazen burglary. Major.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. In the early morning hours of September 18th, detectives from our Criminal Investigations Division responded to a commercial burglary at a gun store in the 7200 block of Fullerton Road in Springfield. Once on scene, detectives immediately started interviewing witnesses and combing through surveillance video. It was determined that 4 juvenile males drove a stolen vehicle through the front glass door of the business and stole 14 firearms before fleeing the scene. Detectives worked around the clock with our federal partners, local agencies, and other entities within the police department to identify those who committed this brazen crime. The group of teenage suspects responsible for the gun store burglary were also tied to a string of additional violent crimes in our community in a short period of time. On September 7th, 4 juveniles committed an armed robbery of a victim in the Springfield Mall. On September 18th, a suspect shot a victim in Lorton. The victim sustained non-life-threatening injuries. On September 19th and 21st, suspects recklessly shot into 2 separate occupied residences in Springfield and Lorton. Fortunately, no one was injured. On September 20th, 3 suspects abducted and robbed a victim in Reston at gunpoint. The victim sustained minor injuries. And on September 22nd, 2 suspects robbed a victim in Hybla Valley at gunpoint. The victim was not injured. The investigation did not stop until all 7 suspects, 5 juveniles, and 2 adults who committed these acts were located and apprehended. These crimes not only involved guns, but savage behavior. Detectives reviewed hours of surveillance video, conducted interviews, authored numerous search warrants, and inspected a large amount of cell phone and forensic evidence. We are thankful for the hard work and dedication of our detectives from the Criminal Investigations Division, Major Crimes Bureau, Special Investigations Division, Digital Forensics Unit, and Crime Scene Section for ending this crime spree. Multiple felony charges were placed ranging from robbery, abduction, burglary, grand larceny of a firearm, grand larceny of an auto, possession of stolen property, and use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. We would like the community to know that all of these dangerous suspects have been arrested and remain incarcerated. Thank you.
Any questions? Julie Carey, I was calling you first out of habit.
Well, you know, given all the gunfire associated with this theft, I mean, your take on the fact that no one is dead, especially when you consider that abduction of another teenager and the way he was threatened.
Certainly. You know, Julie, when something like this happens, a gun store burglary, 14 guns, a brazen act like this, the logical intuitive question is, what are they going to do with these guns? Well, we saw they committed additional violent crimes with these guns, and you're right. They could have committed crimes that were more serious in nature, but the crimes that they did commit certainly were very serious. The ages of these folks responsible for this crime and the subsequent crimes are startling. And you just look at it right now, one adult and the rest of them are teenagers, not yet 18 years old. So we're proud of the fact that we were able to put all these puzzle pieces together, but you don't want this thing to happen in the first place.
Is it believed the homes that they shot into were targeted, or were these random occurrences? Do we know?
Yes, we do believe, based on the investigation, that they were targeted. Yes, ma'am.
For what reason?
It's still an active investigation, so we can't get into the specifics of that right now. Yeah.
And Chief,
Matt, and then back to Julie. Go ahead, Matt.
is it safe to assume that the guns that were stolen were used in the other crimes that happened after?
Yes.
And
And we have ballistic matches to corroborate that.
what kind of guns were stolen?
Major, do you know specifically?
Yes, a combination of pistols and rifles.
And do we think, how many more potential crimes are you guys looking into that these people may have been involved in?
None that we know of, but we're certainly open to the possibilities. Listen, with this national capital region, you can go from jurisdiction to jurisdiction in a matter of minutes, and we've done our due diligence communicating with surrounding jurisdictions, but we aren't sure that we've identified all the crimes that they've been involved in. So we're leaving that door open. Hopefully there are none. Certainly the ones that they did participate in are very serious, but we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't continue to investigate to see what other crimes they may have committed. Yes, sir.
The 14 guns,
Mike.
you may have answered it with his question. Were all 14 guns that were taken recovered?
No, Mike, I described the 14 of the 14.
Oh, okay.
8 of the 14 have been recovered. There are 6 that are outstanding.
Okay.
Haley?
Are you able to give a sense of how these teams convened? How do they know each other? Same school community? Are they from the area?
They know each other, certainly. Obviously, they know each other. We have to protect their identities because they're juveniles, so I don't want to go much further than saying that they obviously are known to each other and associate with each other and committed this brazen act together as well. I'll go Julie, then Nick.
Yeah, and question for you and for Agent Spotswood. Any gang involvement that you've been able to determine here, or were they involved in drug activity?
No gang activity or associations at all. We looked into that, and we do not have any.
And Agent Spotswood, if you could answer this, I mean, this method of, ramming cars in gun stores, there was one just a few days ago out in Middletown, there's been one out in Winchester, I mean, it seems to be pretty common right now. I mean, what concerns does that pose? What is ATF communicating with gun store owners about what they can maybe do? Suggest they put in bollards, it's becoming pretty frequent, and it's young people who are doing it.
Absolutely. It's always an issue anytime we get any federal firearms licensees, anytime any of their stores are broken into, because these are firearms that enter into the illegal market, and that's always going to cause alarm for our neighbors and the society at large. So one of the things that we frequently do is have conversations with our federal firearms licensees, letting them know the different techniques that they can use to better secure their firearms and their stores. And as long as we keep that open line of communication and tracking some of these issues, we'll be better served.
What would you say, though, about whether this is a trend that you're seeing, not only in this area, but other places?
Well, we certainly have a trend of juveniles specifically breaking into these firearms licensees, and it's not only happening here, it's happening across the country. So it's constantly educating our firearms licensees on better practices that they can use to better secure their stuff.
And
Nick?
Chief, can you tell us more about the suspects? Are they from Fairfax County, or are they from out of state?
Again, they're juveniles, so we don't want to get into the specifics as far as that information, because we want to protect their identity because of the juvenile component.
And I think, Nick, it's safe to say that they're all local. And I'm sorry we can't go beyond that, but there's protections in place. But they're all local and they're all known to each other. Matt?
Same, you probably touched on it a little bit regarding the trend involving juveniles. Are there more cases happening, this year, maybe compared to the previous year? Touch on that.
So when we're talking about these burglaries occurring, again, it's not isolated to just Fairfax County. It's happening around the country. And we've seen a little increase in it, but a lot of that is based on the timing of the year, and that's consistent pretty much every year. So it's just a matter of continuously educating our firearms licensees and working with our state, local law enforcement partners to try to mend this issue.
Yeah, and like especially, and Mike, you're next, but like Special Agent Spotswood said, the licensee, the gun store owner, manager, etc., they have a responsibility to target harden their establishment. And for the most part, they are doing just that. And if not for the video associated with this brazen act, we may not have been as far along in our efforts to apprehend them. So video evidence is key, but target hardening one of these locations is also a big part of it as well. Mike?
I know that a few months ago, we had one of these news conferences, and you were talking about the retail crime task force. Was this strictly done through the criminal division, the detectives in your department, or is there a unit that's specifically aimed at these types of crimes?
So I think probably a little confusing. So we do have a group of detectives that spend their time at shopping centers, large shopping centers in Fairfax County, and they concentrate on organized retail crime and retail crime. These players are not involved in what we would consider organized retail crimes or retail crimes. They are involved in a brazen gun store burglary where they wanted to get their hands on guns and then do harm with those guns. So this is not a group that we associate with retail crime. It's apples and oranges.
So it's not like a trend. I mean, in the sense that this group is, never mind. Because
Yeah.
I realized it was answered by someone else. Thank you.
Certainly. Nick?
I want to get your thoughts on the trend of street racing in Fairfax County, too. We've covered those stories quite a bit. Can you tell us what the police department's doing?
So Nick, that is our next part B of this presser.
So we'll get to that.
It will get, yeah, and we're excited to talk about it, but I just first want to finish this one up first. So Haley,
Any idea how they got the Kia, where that came from?
they stole it in Fairfax County. The exact location where they stole it from, I don't have it on the tip of my tongue, but they stole it from Fairfax County. Used that stolen car, obviously, to burglarize and ram it into a gun store. Typically, you'll see pickup trucks or large vehicles associated with these brazen crimes with gun stores, and they typically back it up as opposed to driving it head on. I'm surprised the airbags didn't deploy in this thing, but they're kids. They made a really, really bad decision to participate in such a crime, and then they made additional bad decisions to continue their crimes by targeting people for additional robberies, etc.
Did your
Yeah.
detectives find that targeting a Kia, choosing a Kia, was maybe linked to the social media trends that Kias are accessible? Was it taken from a driveway?
No, we don't have any evidence to corroborate that. We always look into it. So back particularly in 2023, it's decreased in 2024. The TikTok phenomenon that increased thefts of certain motor vehicles. We're down in motor vehicle thefts in Fairfax County over 20% this year compared to last year. So we're seeing some reductions, but we don't have any evidence that one thing has to do with the other. But we certainly look into it, Matt.
When you're literally using a car to break into, what else can a business owner do to protect themselves?
Well, I mean, Special Agent Charge Spotswood talked about it and the responsibilities that they have to, comply with regulations, federal and state and local regulations, and by and large, gun stores comply with those regulations. So it's just a matter of target hardening your place of business to prevent or discourage these crimes. And I think talking about our efforts and our success in apprehending these young people who committed these brazen crimes will hopefully serve as a deterrent to any other people, young or otherwise, who are contemplating doing something similar in Fairfax County or in the National Capital Region. We're going to catch you, and we're going to partner with the ATF. We're going to partner with other law enforcement agencies, and we are absolutely going to catch you. That is a given. It's inevitable. It's a done deal. So think twice before you commit a crime like this, because we're going to catch you. Mike.
Are these juveniles going to be, or were they charged as adults?
No, they're all charged as juveniles. If they were charged as adults, we'd be able to talk about them with specificity. But no, they're all in the criminal justice system. They're all charged as juveniles, and they're all still being held.
Okay, that was the next question. Thank you.
Okay, I think this is our transition phase. And again, many thanks to Special Agent in Charge Spotswood and his ATF team. We can't do this work without them. So we're going to transition into Part B of the presser. Okay, here I go again, brazen. That's brazen street racing, and you can see where that video footage is paused, the number of persons that are in the roadway as spectators. And at those speeds, it doesn't take much for one car to bump into the other to send that car spinning and careening and to a crowd of people who are standing by watching. And it can result in serious injury or death. This area in Fairfax County, the Tysons area, is visited by 25 to 30 million people a calendar year. This is a busy place in the National Capital Region. So this is not a pastime. This is not a hobby. This is not tomfoolery. This is not youthful indiscretion. This is a brazen street racing that does, can, and will cost people their lives. So Assistant Chief Bob Blakely is going to go over the details of this, and he'll describe our efforts not only with street racing, but to your point, Nick, with street takeovers as well, and how seriously we take it in Fairfax County. Chief.
Thank you, Chief. So as the Chief said, a brazen incident occurring at 3 p.m. on a Sunday in Tyson's Corner, and as all of you know, the streets are packed full of people on top of spectators arriving. It's important to understand the context. 37 people have died on the roadways in Fairfax County this year in traffic crashes. We call them crashes, not accidents, because people are responsible for driving behaviors and traffic crashes. When drivers engage in reckless disregard for other people on the roadway, it is extremely likely that those are going to end in severe tragedies. We've seen national news stories from celebrities and the like who are involved in fatal crashes as a result of exhibition driving or street racing. What you saw here was a case from October 13th that surfaced on social media. And per our normal course of business, we immediately opened an investigation to identify the subjects involved. There was a driver in each vehicle and a flagger standing in the roadway to give the go signal, just as you'd picture a street race on a television show or maybe at a racetrack where it's very secured and allowed. Our detectives very quickly identified the drivers, were able to make contact with them, and very quickly placed charges that resulted in their arrest, and they will face their court hearings to answer for those charges. So street racing happens. Obviously, when it hits social media airways, it's a good time for us to talk about it. We've talked a lot about the illegal street takeovers and the car meets that we've really shown some examples of the exhibition driving behavior. We've showed examples of our officers coming upon these types of incidents and being confronted violently in their vehicles, attacked. So we've seen a lot of dangerous examples, and I think our message today is, just as in the violent crimes that we talked about at the first part of this presser, to us this is a very violent crime as well, because people lose their lives on our roadway at a much higher rate in Fairfax County than we're happy with. 0 is our goal. the Vision Zero is the goal. It's a national goal. It's certainly our goal. So we're here today to point out the fact that not only did we aggressively pursue charges against us, we will also do that for anyone else engaging in that type of behavior. And we consider traffic safety of great importance. Last point on this, and I'll take your questions. You know, to the point about crashes and 37 motor vehicle fatalities in Fairfax County this year, our uniformed police officers that are out on the streets have an obligation to prevent these things from happening. It's really what they want to do. It's one of the things that they can hit the street every day and say, I have the potential through my own enforcement or education to prevent someone from dying in a motor vehicle crash. So we use education, enforcement, and engineering to try to prevent fatal crashes. I still believe to this day that a lot of us who get pulled over by the police every year, we're let our speed get away from us. We get slightly distracted, and we appreciate the traffic stop as a moment of a reminder for us all to, I need to pay attention, I need to slow my speed down. A third of our interactions with motorists result in warnings every year because we appreciate the positive exchange we have with the community. This is not that. This is not, oops, I'm going a little too fast. This is a very intentional act to, on 3 p.m. on a Sunday, block the entire roadway, put a flagger out, and engage in a street race that would normally only be performed with fire trucks, ambulances, large gates, walls, helmets, and many other safety devices. This is unacceptable for us. So I'll take your questions.
Good morning,
Yeah, Nick.
sir.
Good morning.
We know Elon Musk shared this video on X. It received millions of views. Do you think Elon Musk sharing this video on X and the millions of views it received helped catch the drivers?
Well, I know we saw the video before it was retweeted, if that's the right word, and our detectives were looking into it that day. But it does go to show that these things do catch on across social media. One big thing we've noticed with the illegal street takeovers is that is fueled by social media. You know, there are large organized groups who we believe profit from this kind of industry, if you will, only by social media, by posting videos of the acts that the drivers are taking. So social media plays a role in certainly making folks think that this is a cool thing to do. I think it's our job to bring it back to reality and say this is a very dangerous thing to do and it's not acceptable to us.
And the street takeover, I think you were referencing from earlier this year. How's the officer who responded?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Nick. The officer's doing well. Right back on the street. She's a very good police officer, and I know that she was anxious to get back out there and get involved. Thank you. Julie?
What would you, if you could try to be persuasive to those who do retweet this material, what would you say to them?
Yeah,
Do they play a role in this?
I think we play a role in it. So I think our obligation is, and why we're here today is, we see something happening in our community. We've done something about it. We will always do something about it. We want to let you know what we're doing about it. So it's not a social media back and forth between one or the other, but it's us saying, if this stuff comes to our attention through whatever means available, we're going to act.
How
Matt?
fast and how far did they go?
Yeah, so that area, believe it or not, when you look at a big giant road and overpasses and metro rails, but that speed on that section of road is 35 miles an hour. So we have our crash reconstruction detectives using all of the greatest science and technology available to them, including multiple search warrants and other things to trying to figure out the exact speed. So I don't have that to give to you today. And as you can see in the video, the distance is relatively short because there was traffic, innocent motorists who were just sitting at the red light ahead of them, thankfully who were not impacted by this event. So we don't have that exact speed, but we're still trying to get it.
And to be clear, this was something planned, like the drivers knew each other?
I don't know the answer to that, but what I do know is clearly by the number of spectators and the organization to it, this was something that was planned. Yeah.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
On that, is there any way, will you guys take any action to anticipate and maybe stop this from happening by monitoring social media more?
Absolutely. So our best strategy is prevention. And honestly, with the illegal street takeover and car meets, the police department has devoted a lot of resources into preventing them from happening. So we do pay attention, and when we believe that they're going to happen, we bring in a significant number of resources and devote them to preventing it from happening. So in many instances, and one instance just this last year, we wrote nearly 100 tickets to prevent an illegal street takeover from occurring. So people coming into the area with vehicles that were illegally modified or equipment that was in violation of Virginia law. We aggressively applied the Code of Virginia and discouraged that illegal driving behavior from continuing and prevented it from happening.
Were you taken by surprise that this was able to convene in Tyson's in broad daylight on a Sunday afternoon?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we didn't know about it for at least a week. So it was, these things happen. It was quick. Everyone jumps in their cars and leaves. Street takeover, same thing. Come into an intersection, do donuts and burn tires, a minute or two and leave before we have a chance to see what happened. But the social media helped us in this one.
Question for my Telemundo partner. She would like to know if you've been able to identify specific locations where this tends to be a repeat problem, and then if so, how are you stepping in to prevent that? I mean, the public might want to even know where they should be.
Absolutely. And Julie, I'm glad to tell you that I don't believe that this is a repeat issue to the extent that there's locations that I can tell you it's going to happen. I can say that with some certainty. We've placed 12 racing charges this year, so that's not very many in the grand scheme of things. So I don't believe organized street racing is occurring on a regular basis in the county, but I believe when it does happen, folks are going to remember how we deal with it, and it's not going to be with a slap on the wrist. We're going to aggressively utilize all laws available and try to make this a safe place for us all to drive from point A to point B. All right.
Chief, I have an off-topic question.
Sure, my favorite.
Obviously, this is, we just had the election. Are you guys already in works with federal officials, safety, security, upcoming the inauguration? Is that already?
Absolutely. So it was all hands on deck, not just from a police department perspective, but from the public safety team in Fairfax County on Election Day. Happy to report that there were no issues of note on Election Day. And obviously a lot of people in a very populated jurisdiction like Fairfax County exercise their right to vote. But we're prepared to assist the U.S. Capitol Police Department and the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C. with the upcoming January anticipated events on the 6th and on January 20th for the inauguration. Julie.
May I ask about tragically another domestic homicide appears to have occurred in the Columbia area. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Chief Blakely mentioned the number 37. Those are the number of persons who died in crashes so far this year. The number of persons who died as a result of murder this year now stand at 13. And that's significantly down compared to where we were the last couple of years. So murder number 13 happened yesterday when an adult son beat his mother to death for no apparent reason. And the 911 caller was not the son, but when our police officers arrived on the scene, the son, who had just beaten his mother to death, remained on the scene and virtually confessed on the scene to our responding patrol officers. That's a tragic event to have an adult child murder, beat to death his own mother. It's something that gets all of our attention. That's murder 13. We have closed every murder we've had this year. So 13 murders in Fairfax County, 13 closures. So, and we take that mindset and apply it to street racing, street takeovers, gun store burglaries. If you do those things, you have our full and undivided attention, and we're going to hold you accountable for it. And we're proud of the fact that we consistently hold people who harm others accountable in Fairfax County.
Do you know if there have been any previous calls to that home, or whether that was a known address?
Yeah, the actual location of the murder wasn't a home, but